Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to another awkward conversation with Seth and Saundra Dunn. This is a fun series that we're getting good reviews on. I think we're enjoying doing it as well, where we pick things that are awkward between us, or things that are awkward in our culture, or awkward among Christians, and we have a conversation about it. So here we are once again with awkward conversations. And today
could be very awkward because I have an attitude. I'm not putting on a happy face. I have a bad attitude this morning, first thing.
As we shoot, as we live in this moment.
Yes.
And guess what our topic is? Fighting. Maybe
and I kind of want to just...
She wants to rumble. So this is awkward conversations.
It'll be real.
OFC version. Is that OFC? Sorry, that's not the right thing. What's that? That's our church. What is that wrestling thing?
WW.
I thought there was another. Anyway.
World Wrestling Federation. WWF. Is that right?
Awkward conversations.
We don't know wrestling.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah. So do you want to? I've got thoughts about me and my view of fighting over the years that I'm going to share. Do you want me to do that now, or do you want to jump in with something first?
Well, I had a thought.
Yeah, jump in.
First and foremost, I think it's really important that as we talk today, it's super important that you understand we are not talking about fighting within an abusive relationship.
Oh, good
So
point.
the things that we're going to talk about are in a normal, fairly healthy environment, fairly healthy relationship.
Yeah.
This is not like...
Thank you. That's a good clarification.
I'm not talking about fighting with somebody who's abusing me. If somebody's abusing me, I should be not fighting. I should be...
running.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, good point.
Whole other topic.
Very good point.
Whole different discussion. So I think that's important to note. That we're talking about within, and we're also not just talking about within marriage. We're talking about within marriage. We're talking about with friends. We're talking about with work, coworkers. We're talking about with enemies, with whoever. But we're, the whole of fighting in life. And when you inevitably you are going to have conflict.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about that.
Yeah. It's good. So I was thinking about in thinking about this video, I was thinking about how I grew up. And, it's weird because I like coming home at lunch now and again, having my lunch and sitting down and watching Andy Griffith. So that dates me a little bit maybe, or shows my sense of humor or whatever. But it's a classic example to me of, you have kids that go to school, and oftentimes what would happen on the playground, I don't know if this is so much true today, but back in that time, they would have rumbles on the playground, right? Yeah. They'd have scuffles. And, it's a common thing. You think of boys just getting together and they wrestle and they fight and they, somebody's going to get a black eye, somebody's going to get scraped and bruised. And that's kind of part of the boyhood for a boy anyway, the childhood of a boy, right? I was never that guy. I was never the one to get into a rumble on the playground. And here's why I wanted to bring that up, because I brought that forward. I just was never one to fight. I did have this attitude that it really didn't matter that you had a different opinion or a different idea or whatever. That was your opinion, your idea. I'm going to respect that, and I don't need to fight with you about it. Right? And there are certain things where I would say it's worth a fight over, but I had very few things. So I think the first time that we had a conversation and she was ready for a fight, and my comment was, well, we don't have to agree on this. I mean, we have different opinions. And I honestly felt like there's no need to fight over this, right? And she's like, yeah, but that's how I get to know you, and this is how we learn things, it's how we grow, and I need to share. And one thing I have learned, and we won't unpack this in depth in this video because it would take way too long, but I began to realize because of this one that this fighting thing was not familiar to me. I didn't want much of anything to do with it, but that I was missing out in life because I wasn't willing to, I guess, stand up sometimes for something that I did feel like was important. So I think, then I discovered, well, there's times I feel like I'm not heard, or I feel like my opinion doesn't matter or whatever. And to some degree, I was okay with that. To some degree, I wasn't. But it was because I wasn't willing to fight.
Yeah. We've talked about it when we talked about honesty in one of our first videos. we talked about how there's something about having enough passion and zest for something in life where it's worth it to you to go head to head, toe to toe with somebody.
Yeah.
And I think that to me, so for me, I grew up in an environment where we fought, and it probably wasn't particularly healthy. but I learned how to fight, how to state my opinion, how to stand up for some things. And not that I grew up like, I wasn't growing up, I was very easy to get along with, very cordial. Like I would I would mostly enjoy like laughing about things, just having a good time, right? I was more interested in the fun of life than in the, stand up for what's right. I have since become way more geared towards standing up for things that I feel strongly about. And I just think fighting is important. I think we need to fight. And not, if you watch last month's video about having fun, I think we need to have fun. I think we need to fight. I think these things are important because they are the gamut. Even when we look at the life of Jesus, like Jesus fought, like he did some scary stuff that is like,
well, he really did. Yeah.
You are pushing the limits, like good, amazing stuff.
Right.
But he cared enough about certain things that he was willing to fight.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to have that in you.
Yeah. No, I think it is too. And I think, of course, there's so many things that come into play with this because you've got personality and different things. Because I was thinking, as you made that comment there about standing up for things, I would generally be, I see people boycott, for example. They'll get upset with something. And so they'll boycott a company or whatever. And I just look at that and go, okay, whatever. That's just stupid. Because, what is your standing up going to do? What are you really, you're not really accomplishing anything. And so that's how I tend to look at it. But I do want to come back to that thought that I presented just a moment ago, that if I don't stand up for the things that do matter to me, particularly with those that I love the most and feel the most safe with, if I'm not willing to stand up then I'm going to miss out. So I'm not saying that in some personalities, you just aren't going to fight as much. Okay, well, maybe that's true.
Yeah, for sure.
But there is that element of saying, but here it matters.
Yeah.
And therefore I need to stand up. I've got some theological points that I'm willing to fight on because they're that important. But for you, I'm curious, did you feel like maybe because I didn't stand up, and I'm doing it more than I used to, but because I wouldn't fight for things, did you feel like maybe I wasn't either being honest or just not being open or not? What did that stir in you? Is it related to us?
Well, when it first happened, when we were dating, he said, well, I'm not going to argue about it. I was like, excuse me?
That's not an option.
We are going to argue. And so at that point, I was dumbfounded because I'd never experienced that in my life. Somebody saying, well, I'm not going to argue with you. Like, no, at my house, you want to go, we're going to go.
At my house, you never went. We never had that. They're polar opposites, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was, the very first of it was like shocking. And I was like, because it shocked me, I was like, oh, what? That's an option? Okay. And so then I just backed down on that, at that point in time.
Interesting, sure.
And for the first several years that we were married, I just realized he wasn't going to fight with me. And later on, I realized that's so frustrating and so annoying because excuse me, this awkward conversation, I'm just going to say it. It made me feel like if somebody breaks in my house, are you going to stand up and fight for me? Oh. It made me feel like you're so passive. I could do anything and you'll just be like, okay, we're just going to keep going on with our marriage. And it felt like it feels very negative. Like there's not enough passion there that you would stand up for me, that you would protect me, that you would care.
Or even stand up. I was going to say against you. I don't know if that's right. To you. That's the right word. I wouldn't stand up to you. You're like, I want to do this. And I'm like, no, I'm not okay with that kind of
right.
thing.
Exactly.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think, again, that space of fighting is important in that there are people who don't, we love the Enneagram and we haven't talked a lot about that and we won't go into it a lot, but on the Enneagram, that's a behavioral profile thing.
Yeah, a tool.
A tool, yes, very much. And on the Enneagram, there are people who are 9s. That's their number. And they are called the peacemaker. And they are very, very, very passive and will not stand up and fight, will not go after anything unless you like really, really, really push them. But I think it's interesting because how that appears to people who are willing to fight and are willing to stand up for things. And I'm not saying, I think there's a balance, right? Those people who want to fight about everything all the time,
right?
Come on, like that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then the people who don't want to ever fight about anything, it's like, come on.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fight about something that you care about, right?
There.
So I think we have to take into the whole gamut of personalities that it's important, and it's important to know, okay, well, if we're gonna fight, what is worth it to fight about for me?
Make those choices.
And what am I willing to fight for?
Well, and what's important for you, but also like when it comes to a relationship, in this case, husband and wife, but it could be a parent to child, it could be a friendship, it could even be in business, I suppose. What are the things like for her? I'm almost wondering, there's enough content going on here. We may need to do a second part on this because I've got so many thoughts rolling right now because like this could be a whole episode in itself that I have started realizing that for you, as you just well expressed, if I stand up for something, have an opinion, and am willing to voice it, you feel honored and valued. And let me guess, and boy, a whole nother thought, but you probably feel like, oh, now you're getting to know me a little bit more.
Yeah, it is that space of, like, to me, when I can fight with somebody, and let me caveat this, because growing up when we fought, I didn't necessarily know. My family always said, I love you, but words for me were not my love language, so I never could take that in.
Okay.
So, I mean, I knew it in my head. I didn't necessarily feel it. So I know in my head my family loves me, but I haven't necessarily felt that. And we fought, and I didn't feel this. So there's some caveat to be said here of like, when we fight, if I feel somebody loves me and we fight, that feels like intimacy to me. It feels like we're getting closer. When I fight with somebody and I don't know they love me, then it's kind of like, man, it doesn't feel honoring, dishonor. It just is like, I just had a fight with somebody. Like I don't like how it feels, but it's fine.
Yeah. So while that's not an awkward conversation, that is a huge point that, love needs to come into everything. Right. And so even into fighting. So that's a whole different conversation. But, for you and I think for all of us, we want to, if we're in a relationship, we should value that relationship enough to want to bring into it what's of value. Right. So for you, me not being willing to fight, me, of course, coming from an atmosphere and a background of virtually no fighting. So then fighting felt like a negative to me. It didn't feel like intimacy. It felt like we're tearing things down. And will we ever be able to rebuild them would be the kinds of thoughts I would have, because fighting and intimacy and that connection didn't make sense. Right?
So when I say it, does it make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. It was just something I had no connection with early in life.
Yeah.
So now I've learned more that even with God, there are things that I read in the Bible. I did a message at Open Fields Church recently that kind of went this direction. But even with God, there's things I read in the Bible and I'm like, God, I don't get that. That seems wrong. I feel like you have a bad attitude here, God. What's up with this? See, I should be able to say those things. God's not going to be offended by that. No. And if I know God loves me, then I can say those things to him. And so then the same thing, right? Is this what I was hearing from you? The same thing then with people.
Yeah.
If we know we love each other, there's that foundation of that, then you can have those conversations, those fights, and go to a productive end.
And know everything's going to be good. In fact, probably better.
Better.
Because I get to know you better, you get to know me better. And we build on that. I do think, that's important thing that I don't want to pass up is the ability to argue with God, to fight with God. I think a lot of people feel intimidated and don't want to have that fight because they know God's right. And of course, we all know God is right. And so it feels awkward and like foolishness in a sense. But also when you're having the emotion of anger and frustration about something that God has said or something that you don't agree with him on, I think having the ability to go to him and fight, I would say that is one of the reasons I love him so much is because I know I can say anything to him and I know he's going to love me in spite of it. He's going to love me through it. He's going to love me enough to teach me stuff in it. And I mean, that's part of what makes my relationship with him so personal and so intimate. Yeah. And so I think if we can have that with God, then certainly we would aim for having that with somebody we love. Again, whether boss, we respect and love them, a friend, a coworker, a spouse, a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever the situation is. And that is one of the things I had down is that you love the other one, even if. Like, even if I don't like certain things. Sure. So, for example, we could talk about me having tattoos. We could talk about Seth's love of money. So those are two things that we're very, very on opposite ends with. Seth doesn't love tattoos. I don't love money. I do love, I mean, I
buys tattoos.
I appreciate money, but it's not my first thought about stuff where it tends to be his first thought. So when we talk about something like that, I think learning how to love the other, even if, even if you need to spend 3 hours working on our budget, 3 days a week, I get to love him even if I don't like it, I don't agree with it, I think it's dumb, and that's the thing, right? When you're in a relationship, even if it's a friendship or a boyfriend, girlfriend, when you're in a relationship, there's things that you just think the other one is like, God, it's just so dumb. I just don't get it. And I think understanding that, okay, I'm going to love him even if. And I think when we're fighting, I'm going to love him even if. So that helps me helps you know we're going to come through the fight on the other side healthy and okay.
Yeah, which is a huge point. Because I think I would have had, and this is part of why I was probably adverse to fighting. There are a number of reasons, but one of them would be I assumed that you fought either to get your way, so therefore that feels very mean, manipulative, controlling, that kind of thing, or the end goal was to get that other person to see it how you see it and to agree with you. And I'm realizing now that really healthy fighting is a form of communication. So you can express your view, your opinions, your ideas, and I can say, well, this is how I see it. And we don't come to, sometimes you do learn something, and so you come closer to the view of the other person. But ultimately, that's not the goal. The goal is not for me to look at things and think of things and be exactly like you. No. The goal is to understand where you're coming from and to express where I'm coming from. And I don't need you then to be a mini me. And I would have thought that that's the end of fighting was to control, to dominate, to,
get your way.
I
think that's huge. I think that
it is huge.
Probably like the main point of the entire video is fighting in order to understand.
To understand. That's good.
It is so good.
Say that again.
Fighting in order to understand. Because that is what helps create intimacy. If I understand why is money so valuable and so important to you, you understand why are tattoos so valuable and important to you. Yeah. If we can understand that for each other, we begin to have that intimacy because now I know what makes him tick. I know what's important. I know why. So I think that's huge. And I think that's something I would say when you're fighting, rather than just, we don't name call. I would assume you all know that. When you're fighting, be an adult and be kind, right? And
It's not an attack.
I know adults don't do this, but this is what we should be doing, is fighting with adult kindness. So how do I do that? I can say, these are the things that are important to me. And then I can say, can you please help me understand this about you? I don't get that. Why is that so important to you? It makes no sense. Please tell me.
Yeah.
Right? Ask questions. Because it's in asking questions that you get to the point of fighting, which is understanding.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Man, that asking questions thing is huge.
Huge. When we come to fighting, ask questions.
And caring enough.
Trying to understand.
Yeah, exactly. So asking a question to the end of understanding.
Yes.
Not asking a question that is geared at, because you could ask questions that are just geared at. Like a question would be, well, that's stupid. Why do you see it that way?
Or, what are you, an idiot?
That's not a question, but a question to understanding. So, even though you still may not see it the way I see it, it brings you to that point of going, okay. And
that's not the point. The point is to keep our individuality.
Sure.
You see, I have these things here. Because even though he may not understand that, doesn't necessarily like them, he's given me the freedom because he understands that it's important to me and it means something to me.
Yeah. And
likewise with money and other things that I give him that space.
And the cool thing about that is, in a relationship that's on these foundational principles, and I think the same thing can apply with God, is it's an honor to give you that freedom. You know what I mean? That's not a chore. I still don't understand wanting to adorn your body with tattoos. I'm not claiming I'm not saying I wouldn't get one, but I'm not even growing to that point to where I think I want one. But I honor that and respect it. And therefore, you know what? I even like that in you because it's important to you. And so for me to be able to say, I may not even get it. I may not feel the depth of heart or whatever to it, but it's valuable to you.
Yeah.
And now I understand that because it's been expressed.
Yeah.
And therefore it's an honor, to do that for that other person, or do that, I say. I mean, to give room.
Yeah. Yeah. To honor that.
To honor it.
Yeah.
And that's huge. That's good.
P.S.
Yeah.
If you have biblical issues with tattoos, hit me up. I'd love to fight with you about it.
There you go. There's an offer to fight.
I've got lots of things to say about it. I have people approach me who do have issues with tattoos biblically, like there's stuff in there that says don't. And I'm like,
and
come at me.
Yeah,
not that I'm going to fight with you and rip you apart, not that. But I would love to help you understand and see what I see and why I have peace about it in my heart between me and God about it.
Yeah.
Total side note. And I think we should shut it down.
Well,
I mean the video.
Yeah, no, we'll shut the video down. But one quick thing: what is a person who does tattoos? What are they called? A tattoo artist, or what are they called?
Tattoo artist.
So
tattooist.
So a tattooist. I like that.
Tattoo artist. Either way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you contact Saundra to have that tattoo fight, you need to understand that God Himself was a tattooist. You have a scripture. You mentioned it in a sermon recently.
I know. I have several
God
scriptures.
Himself tattooed someone. There you go.
If we want to talk about it, we can talk about it.
Okay. All right. Well, so there you go. I mean, there's a little bit on fighting. I hope you got something out of that.
I think we'll do a follow-up on this, just because
we might, because there's a lot there
I haven't even gotten to. So
yeah, and a lot came out that I'm like, oh wow, there's a lot to this subject, right? Yeah. So maybe we will next month.
Next month?
We'll see. All right.
Okay.
Well, hey, we love doing this. We love the comments. So keep commenting, share it with people, like it, subscribe. What is it? Ring the bell, because we definitely like doing this and we're seeing that it's bringing value to people. And so share it, so that others see the content too and draw nigh unto God, right? Closer to His heart.
Yes.
That's
absolutely.
the goal. Yeah. We love you all. Thank you for watching.
Yeah.